I'm Gugu Mbatha-Raw, and this is Variety Uncovered. "2020 was such a seismic shift for people on many levels. Obviously, we had the pandemic to deal with. George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, so many movements erupting and really people awakening to the injustice in society. And I think the pandemic really sort of shone a spotlight on the sort of cracks in our society and the inequalities that are either, overt or also systemic. Reading that letter, I thought it was really powerful, and I signed it because of a sense of solidarity and a sense of wanting to be a part of the change. When there is a moment like we had in 2020, I think it's really inspiring and exciting to get on board, but I think it's also really important to keep the momentum. So it's not just a moment, but that it becomes real change and it's sustained. And I think that takes time and structure and real thought. And I think that the way the letter was composed and knowing that people across all industries and all groups of society were signing the letter. So I felt really that it was an important thing to be a part of. I think now, you can't unsee who's not in the room. I think it's impossible once you have that awareness to go back to ignorance or to go back to the old ways of doing things. I think people are now calling each other out on it, and companies have also made commitments and pledges to change things. So I think awareness is a huge shift. I think that in terms of what I'm seeing, myself in the last year have had my first producer credit and a first executive producer credit. So I guess in terms of being a part of the change that you want to see, I am actually myself been evolving. It's sometimes hard to always have perspective because I don't think I have worked with any producers of colour in the UK. And that's shocking to me to think about that. But I've worked with directors of colour, I've worked with lots of diverse casts. And I think one of the interesting things for me, certainly, even in a project like The Girl Before, the diversity behind the camera is still lacking in terms of crews, in terms of cinematographers, camera department, all of these different departments that not just producers. I think that's one thing where I would love to see a lot more black and brown people behind the camera. And it's interesting when you have a show that maybe has a very diverse cast in front of the camera, it gives the illusion that perhaps everything's changed, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily filtered through to every single department. I would hope that there's still quite a bit more work to be done. All my female director friends and colleagues are so in demand and booked for months and months and years ahead. So I think that's a huge win compared with some of the conversations I was having maybe 2-3 years ago about working with female directors, for sure.
It's not your story, Mr. Laufeyson. It never was.
Loki is back for a second season, but that won't start filming till next year, so I'm really excited about that. I feel like I've been at producer school this last year, working on The Girl Before and Surface, and have just learnt so much from many different perspectives of the industry. So I'm excited to take all of that new experience and knowledge and bring it to the next thing.